let's go back to the beginning, your early childhood. And I'm going to bring this into the story in the realm of food because that is my area of expertise. But when it comes to this or any kind of addiction, we can understand the wiring and the patterns of behavior all overlap. They're all the same type of thing. So this really begins in our early childhood where we are taught to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And an example of that, and I want you to really think about this in your own life, in your own childhood, in your own community, what may have happened in this situation. Say, for instance, you're a toddler and you fell over and you skinned your knee, and all of a sudden, there's blood pouring out, you're screaming your head off, you're wound up, your nervous system is activated, you're having a little meltdown, to be quite fair. And what do you think your caregivers are going to do in that moment? Of course, in a good home, they're going to want to comfort you. They're going to want to give you some attention. If you scream loud enough, I'm sure they will. And often the responses, particularly from older generations and unfortunately generations today. And so share this video with any parents out there that may be doing this, particularly the grandparents, because seriously, the way that we respond to our children's pain is setting them up for success or failure later in life for emotional intelligence. It's really, really important that we bring to light a deep level of emotional intelligence and awareness to how we're training our children to respond to pain in the future. So let's just say you're at grandma's house and you have hurt yourself and grandma doesn't know how to cope. She doesn't have the capacity, right? And her immediate response is to soothe you as soon as possible, or even a parent, whoever you're with, right? Their response is to create soothing. And often what happens is that they will say, oh, you're okay. Oh, that must hurt. Okay, good, whatever their response is. But often what happens is they'll try and reach for something that's going to immediately cheer you up. They're trying to shift your emotional state from being upset and hurt and the tears and everything like that into returning you to a sense of calm. Now, we can't blame our caregivers for this at all, but often what they'll do is they will say, let's just go to the cookie jar, or let's get a treat, or let's get that lolly. And just, and basically what they're doing is they're shoving sugar or carbohydrate, something like that, into our bodies. And unfortunately, what that does is that releases certain opiates in the brain, such as dopamine, and that immediately gives us a little rush of feel-good chemicals. And so all of a sudden, we've gone from physical hurt, pain, being afraid, being in fear, into getting some love and attention from our caregivers, to getting a reward of having sugar or any kind of substance that's going to release dopamine in the brain. So this isn't just for food addiction. This is for all addiction. This is really setting us up for these types of behaviors long term, where we become kind of hardwired for that dopamine high. There's a number of other opiates that obviously fall into the addiction realm, but we'll focus on this one for now. So as a child, we have all of a sudden learnt, okay, there's emotional pain, must be avoided. Here's a distraction. Here's something that will immediately shift my state. It will shift my neurochemistry, and it will shift my physiology, and it will take me from this wound up, anxious state where I'm in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response into kind of this immediate sense of calm. So that teaches us a number of things, right? It teaches us immediately my emotional outbursts aren't welcome. They're not safe. And also, I need to stuff them down. I need to swallow them up. And that's the first thing. We're not taught to just feel and express and be held and nurtured in a safe environment where we can allow the physical pain to come out. And what's interesting about tears, particularly in a child, is as tears actually dry on your face, oxytocin is actually found in the teardrops themselves. There's various different hormones found in tears. So as the tears cry from our eyes and dry on our skin actually absorbs oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So, first of all, we've stopped the body's natural response of actually giving us what it needs to self-soothe. And instead of that, we've interrupted that cycle by reaching for something that's going to stimulate dopamine in the brain, the reward center in the brain. And so now all of a sudden we are feeling this high from the drug, in this case, the one of sugar. And you could put in XXX, how that child is going to grow up and find dopamine with any other addiction later in life. But now this child is not only taught to stuff down emotions, taught that emotions aren't safe, they're taught to please the caregiver. And also that is related to love and connection, because here is this person, this caregiver that's taking care of me and giving me love and giving me connection in this moment, if we're lucky, and is giving me this reward of shutting up by stimulating dopamine in my brain through sugar and carbohydrates. Now, you tell me, when we condition a child's mind over and over again to do that, what is likely to happen later in life? How are they going to learn to sit in uncomfortable feelings? How are they going to learn that their feelings are all valid, whether they're positive or negative, if we're raised in homes and in a society where we are literally taught to avoid the pain and seek pleasure? We don't stand a chance. So what happens as we are developing emotionally? We are reaching for things to do that very same thing. And so we get to our teens, then all of a sudden we're introduced to alcohol. And guess what that does? Alcohol really does stunt our emotional development, just as food addiction does, just as any kind of addiction does. Anytime we are avoiding pain and seeking pleasure, trying to avoid uncomfortable feelings because we're not taught the coping skills and not taught that they're safe and that it's actually okay. There's nothing really to fear there. It's just allowing the energy and motion to move itself through your nervous system to be processed. And what I mean by that is emotions, energy and motion. And emotion is an automatic response to a situation where we may be experiencing something that's triggering us. And I'll do another video particularly on emotions. However, in this situation, we are literally being programmed. We are being conditioned through our environment to addiction. And I really don't believe that rewarding a child for good or bad behavior with sugar is an ethical thing to do, is a loving thing to do, is a kind thing to do, or the right thing to do. I also know that we haven't been taught this. There is no one really to blame but society itself, right? So we can't kind of point the finger and go, oh, I'm obese and screwed up because you conditioned me that way. No, this is where forgiveness comes in. So as we become aware of who we are, how we're wired, how we respond to the world, what are our positives and what are our negative traits? Where did these things come from? It's really important to constantly do a forgiveness journey along the way. Forgiveness of being a product of our environment, a product of our school, a product of our religions, our churches, our communities, our homes, our parents, whatever. We need to work through that and let that go and just come to a place that right here, right now, I can accept that this is where I'm at. And I am now becoming consciously aware of those programs that are hardwired into my brain that I'm not even consciously aware of. And what I mean by that is you can be going through your daily life and not even really aware of your relationship with food or any kind of addiction because you've been so programmed to kind of go to it. It becomes the habit or the reward at the end of the day. Oh, I've worked really hard. I deserve that wine. I've worked really hard. I deserve that food. I've worked really hard. I deserve to treat myself in this moment. So it's not just that we're using food as medicine or our addictions as medicine for self-soothing methods. we're also using it to reward ourselves